Um, so welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for this webinar on the Higher Education Accreditation Project. And AzAEYC is so excited to have this opportunity from ADE and the Preschool Development Grant to be able to work with you all on getting 10 pathways throughout the state accredited through AzAEYC. And so we're very lucky to have Martha here in our state to kind of help us along with this project, and then also the support of Mary Harrell from AzAEYC and her whole team at AzAEYC. So today, Mary's going to kind of go over the whole higher education accreditation process, and then Martha's going to talk to you about some of the strategies to go ahead and get started before we actually start having our meetings together. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the specifics of the Arizona Higher Education Accreditation Project. So a little bit about what we're going to be able to offer and some of the expectations that we have for the work. And then we're going to talk about some upcoming events and dates that we have. Martha and I have been busy planning the fall and finding opportunities where we could piggyback on meetings and times that people were already going to be together and take full advantage of your time and be able to be available to you also. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I would do introductions, but I kind of feel like we already did those. And and everybody knows everybody. Is there anyone else on the phone that didn't have a chance to say good morning? Okay, well then I think that we're ready, Mary, whenever you are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dawn. And thank you so much for the partnership to AzAEYC in working through the accreditation cohort and the commitment that the affiliate is showing to ensure that all of our early childhood educators have high quality preparation in Arizona. We're deeply appreciative of this partnership, and we're looking forward to working together over the next year or two on this project. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I get started. We're a small enough group, so please feel free if you have questions or want to say something to just interrupt during the presentation, and just ask your question over the phone. If you're more comfortable, you're welcome to use the chat box, which is toward the bottom of your webinar screen right there. So you can post it there, and I'll just monitor that as we move through the slides. Well, I wanted to spend some time today just walking through giving a high-level overview of the accreditation process, and we'll go much deeper as we meet over the coming months and work through the process together. But to at least for those of you who may not be familiar with the accreditation system, provide a little bit of information about the history of the system, and then kind of walk through the steps that you'll be taking through this accreditation process. I always like to begin with these overviews is just putting into perspective why higher education accreditation and the accreditation of early childhood programs matters. Within AzAEYC, for those who are members, you know that we live by the strategic direction in our organization, and it lays out 5 priorities, and one of those priorities is around the profession. And we see deeply embedded within that profession is this commitment to building consensus around professional expectations of what we expect early childhood educators to know and be able to do, as well as providing quality assurance for the programs that prepare early childhood educators. And so this accreditation system is very much part of that priority. We launched in 2006 to accredit early childhood associate degree programs, and we were excited 2 years ago to expand the system, and we now accredit programs through the master's degree level. We wanted to expand a pathway so that every early childhood degree program had an opportunity to move through the quality assurance process, as well as to build out a quality improvement system, as accreditation really has a twofold purpose around quality assurance and improvement. And you all know that we are deep into the work of Power to the Profession at NAEYC, along with 14 other early childhood organizations. And that work is focused on developing a framework for the profession. And one of those core components of every profession is the accreditation of their professional preparation programs. And so we do see the system very much supporting the work of Power to the Profession and being part of the early childhood system as we move forward in advancing this profession and building a profession that is more consistent across all of the states. So accreditation, and I know we all love accreditation. Our institutions go through regional accreditation, and many of our programs at our institutions have programmatic accreditation. And so it can be a lot of work to go through these processes, but they're really important processes. It matters because accreditation ultimately is about building and supporting degree program quality and creating that culture of continuous improvement within the institution and within the program. And it also serves for us in the early childhood field as a really important accountability mechanism. We want to be a self-governing profession, and this is us, the profession, holding ourselves accountable. It's the profession that sets the standards for the accreditation system, that runs the system. Our system is built on the volunteers, faculty, and others who serve as our peer reviewers in the commission, and they guide the work of this accreditation system. And ultimately, right, this is about creating better pathways for our students as they move through. We know in the early childhood degree programs, so many of our students are going part-time. They are working full-time often. They have their own family responsibilities. And as institutions, it's our responsibility to build pathways that can support them so that they can complete their programs and advance in their careers as well as advance in their educational goals. I'm not going to run through all of these, but there's the global why accreditation matters, and there's also the very specific of what accreditation does within our programs. And so for our programs that move through this process, many of them have talked about how this has helped them build or strengthen their relationships with other schools and their field experience settings to really hone in on that recruitment to completion pathway within their institutions and to help them really develop and understand the impact of their programs on their candidates as well as in the communities that they serve. I wanted to share just a little bit about the system itself. There are over 200 institutions that have accredited programs. We are in 41 states. And the system itself, as I said, is really comprised and runs on the volunteers that do this work through our peer reviewers and our commissioners. Martha served as a commissioner. Vicki Young-Chiverton is on our commission now. Melissa is on here. I see her name is one of our great peer reviewers within the system. And we are deeply appreciative because truly this system would not operate without all of the volunteers that contribute to it. We've also recently gotten a grant for NAEYC to better analyze the characteristics of our accredited programs, and so we're just beginning that work. And I was just going to share some of the information that we're pulling with our accredited programs, and you can see this map of all of our accredited programs. And then we've also been pulling and looking at the kinds of degrees that are accredited by our programs. So the majority of our degrees that are accredited degrees are not the AA degrees. So the majority are whether it's the AAS or the AS degree. And you'll see to the right, since our expansion, many of our baccalaureate and master's degree programs have been in self-study. And so they've just started finishing that work and moving through the site visit and receiving decisions. So we're growing the number of baccalaureate and master's degree programs. We also, as we look at our programs and how they deliver their content, 80% of our programs are hybrid programs and include a mix of online, face-to-face curriculum. And so 12% are online and only 7% of the programs are face-to-face only programs in the accreditation system. And I think this speaks to the responsiveness of early childhood degree programs and finding ways to deliver content that meets students where they are and makes it more accessible for students. We've also pulled information on faculty in our programs, and the average number of full-time faculty in our programs is 3, and part-time is 7. When we look at the median and the mode, though, that moves down to 2 full-time faculty and 5 part-time faculty. And many of our programs are also 1-person full-time faculty. So it's a question we have often for programs, and some of you may be in the situation where you're the only full-time faculty member, and it is possible to move through this process as 1 full-time faculty member. And that'll be something that we talk about as we move forward over the coming months about supports that can be in place to support faculty that may not have the same resources that other programs have. And just the average number of field experience hours that are available to students is 262 hours. And so that's a really healthy number of field experience hours in the associate degree programs. In terms of just the mission of our program, we were set up as an accreditation system to, number 1, set a standard of excellence for the early childhood degree programs and to set those standards. And all of you are familiar with NAEYC's professional and preparation standards, which serve as our accreditation standards in the system. And as an accrediting body, then, it's our function to recognize programs for meeting those standards. And so we will walk through today what that process of accreditation looks like. And rest assured that we will dive much more deeply in the coming months about what alignment to the standards looks like, and talk much more in depth about the kinds of evidence that you'll be collecting and pulling together within your self-study report. Just a few things as programs have gone through the accreditation system that they have noted, in addition to some of the benefits for accreditation that I mentioned earlier, is that they see this as a way of enhancing recruitment efforts and the visibility of their programs at the institution. Oftentimes, educator prep programs and institutions of higher education tend to be pretty low on the totem pole for the level of respect for programs within the institution. And as early childhood degree programs, we often struggle below that. And so the accreditation has served as a really good vehicle for faculty and programs to demonstrate to their colleagues in the institution, to the leadership, about the quality work that they do and what's actually involved in preparing early childhood educators. So it's really helped build relationships with leadership and raise the visibility of the programs. But it also, we like to be very realistic that this takes time, a lot of collaboration with colleagues in the institution, your partners in the field. And so it will take this time for the self-reflection and the collaboration. But we're really fortunate with AzAEYC that they're built out some supports to help programs as they move through this and to make this to kind of chunk out this work to make it much more workable for faculty as they go through this process. So I thought I'll move on to the accreditation process, but does anyone have any questions about just sort of the overview of the system itself and how it's organized? Okay, well, I will move along to move into the process itself. So accreditation, we use this image a lot as we talk about accreditation because it really is about connecting the dots and the different pieces, particularly within the self-study report. And so as we go through the accreditation process and talk a little bit about what's in the self-study report, you'll see these connections of these circles. We look globally at the program and the institution in the context of the program. We say a lot in the system that this is about meeting the standards, but it's not about standardization. All of our accredited programs look different from each other, and that's a really good thing. And we want the standards to be flexible enough so that programs can respond to them in ways that make sense for the students they serve, the communities that they serve in. So you'll see in the self-study report that you'll spend a good bit of your time talking about the context of your program and helping the peer reviewers and the commissioners understand the context in which your program operates. The standards serve as a framework for the entire process, so everything that you submit in the self-study report ties back to the standards. And it connects then to all the different kinds of learning experiences that you offer in your program. So you'll be describing those through the site visit. Peer reviewers will be able to see firsthand what some of those experiences look like. And then a big piece of the self-study work that you'll be doing is really around the assessments that you use to measure your candidates' progress and understanding of the standards. This will really serve as the core evidence within your program. So we will talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. But using those assessments and then the data that comes out of those assessments, you'll be looking at how your candidates perform in relation to the standard, how you use the results from that data to make changes to teaching and learning within your programs. Again, we're not looking for specific pass rates on the assessments that you have, but it's really much more about looking at the quality of the assessments, ensuring their alignment to the standards, and looking at how you're collecting and using that data, again, to make changes to the teaching and learning in your programs and how that's helping you understand what your students understand about the standards. I'm not going to run through the standards today, but I just wanted to highlight that as you move through the accreditation process with the standards, that there's a lot within the standards. There's a lot packed into each of the key elements of the standards. And it's really important as we go through the process to look not just at that introductory statement at the head of all of the standards, but the key elements below those, and then the supporting explanation, because it's in that supporting explanation that really provides detail about the key elements and what we are expecting of the candidates in relation to that part of the standard. And then at the end of the book, there's a set of rubrics at the end of the standards book that really defines expectations, and that can be a helpful resource as you move through this process to better understand what the Commission is looking at in terms of the assessments that you use and the data coming out of those assessments. So I just wanted to highlight that there is a set of rubrics there, and those can be helpful as you create your assessments. And the standards, they move, each of the standards moves, the key elements move from knowing and understanding about a particular component of the standard into the application of the standard. So you'll see through standards, particularly 1 through 5, you'll see this structure of knowing, understanding, and application as you move through each of those key elements. Standard 6 is a little different. That's the standard around professionalism. And so there's a lot of different key elements within that standard addressing different concepts. And then standard 7, as you know, is around field experiences with the programs. So we will we'll spend more time on these in the coming months, but these are the standards that we use in the NAEYC position statement, and they also serve as our standards in the accreditation system. In terms of the process itself, it begins with an application for eligibility. And I'm going to flip forward for a minute. And this is really to just help staff better understand the program and make sure they meet some threshold indicators before they embark on the accreditation process. So as we look at the application for eligibility, we want to ensure that the program has regional accreditation. That second bullet does not apply to associate degree programs, so I will skip over that for right now. But early childhood degree programs should have at least 18 credit hours of early childhood coursework in their programs. It should include field experiences. The program should have graduated at least one person, one individual from their program. And for the faculty qualifications, the full-time faculty member who's overseeing the program or has primary responsibility for the program needs to have a graduate degree with at least 18 graduate credits in early childhood or family studies. So when you submit your application, I know that many master's degree programs and doctorate degree programs are not in early childhood education. But if you can demonstrate through the transcripts that there was 18 credits of early childhood coursework, that certainly suffices. And so Pam Ehrenberg, who's our Director of Accreditation, will work very closely with program faculty to go through the transcripts, because we know even some courses might not have early childhood in the name, and she'll go through with you to look at where the focus was on early childhood content. So we typically get the most questions around that eligibility requirement, and so as we move through that, Pam will work with faculty just to document this and to find those 18 credit hours. So the application submission happens, and once you've been approved to begin the process, you enter self-study. And this is the period of time that you will use to work through the self-study report, gather the evidence that you need. Oftentimes programs make adjustments to their key assessments, or they might create assessments that align to the standards. So this is a period of time of intense focus within the self-study report, and we'll talk a little bit toward the end as Dawn and Martha talk more about this project, about what that self-study period will look like and the length of time for that. Programs then, once they've completed their self-study report, it gets submitted, and we have 2 submission dates, September 30th and March 31st, so there's a fall or spring submission date. If you submit your self-study report in the fall, you'll have a site visit in the spring, and then you typically receive a commission decision that summer. If you submit a self-study report in the spring, you'll have a site visit in the following fall, and you'll receive your commission decision in the late winter, early spring of that following year. So the self-study report period is really the time period that is most up to programs to determine that length. But once that self-study report is submitted, then there is a schedule that all of the programs follow as they continue through this process. And then the commission, once it makes its decision, the accreditation period is for 7 years. So programs will submit annual reports each year with annual fees, and then begin the renewal process in year 6 of their accreditation period. So the steps within this accreditation process should feel very familiar to what you've gone through with regional accreditation and other programmatic accreditation that you may have gone through. Let's see. Does anyone have questions about just the steps? I'm going to move a little bit more deeply into the self-study report.
I have a question about the early childhood. If you have an early childhood endorsement, does that cover that, or you just need to look at transcripts? And
yep. The important, that's a great question. The important piece is just to document that you've had 18 graduate credits in early childhood, so that if the endorsement that you have includes that, it would just be important to show that through the transcripts.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, the self-study report. This is the fun part for the accreditation. There are several components in the self-study report. There's a section, if we go back to that earlier image of the 6 circles across the top of the page, that first circle is around context. And so there's a section of the self-study report on the criteria that is looking at all different aspects of your program, the students it serves, your faculty, and how it's organized. There's a component called the learning opportunities, and this is what some might call it a curriculum map, but where you lay out all the different ways in which you include and teach and provide opportunities for candidates to learn about the standards. And then you have the key assessments that you'll be submitting, the data that's attached to those assessments. Standard 7 around field experiences, you'll have a field experience chart that you'll fill out, as well as some narrative to describe how you've built and organized your field experiences. And then there's a section at the end that's fairly new in this template on program performance outcomes. So I'm going to talk briefly about each of these sections, and then I'll hand this over to Dawn and Martha. So the criteria should look pretty familiar when you've done regional accreditation and others, but we want to know about the mission and role of your community. There's a section around program design, and well, you'll have an opportunity to talk about the conceptual framework for your program of studies, how you've organized your program and sequenced the courses in your program. And the newest criteria is the one called role in the pipeline, and that's the fifth one down here. And this is about how programs are supporting candidates as they come into their programs and move out of their programs into their next educational experience. So around transfer and articulation and how they're supporting candidates with their previous and prior learning experiences and making those connections. One of the guiding principles of our accreditation system is that we want it to support articulation and transfer. And so we've added this criteria as a way to further operationalize that and to help programs think about and articulate how they do, how they support this, whether it's moving from high school to post-secondary education, from associate to baccalaureate to master's degree, but to really help programs think about this and think about their students' previous and prior educational experiences and how their particular program kind of connects those experiences. There's a section and criteria around the characteristics of candidates, the kinds of advising and supports that are in place to support candidates. Faculty section where you'll talk about the qualifications of your faculty, the responsibilities and how you've organized the responsibilities of your faculty, as well as the professional development opportunities that are available to faculty and how that is supported within the program. And then the final section of the criteria is around program organization and guidance, talking about the financial resources of the program, access to IT, institutional research, thinking about all the different resources that play into your program and support the way your program is able to help candidates learn about and apply the standards in their preparation. In the self-study report, there's a section on the learning opportunities, and this is it's in a chart format within the self-study report. And so you'll see on the screen, I've just pulled out a section of that particular chart, but it's organized by key element within the standards. And programs think about within all of their core required courses in the early childhood degree program, think about all the different ways that they help candidates learn about and apply the standards in their programs. So that could be anything from readings that the students do as part of their project, part of their course, group projects that they do, reflection activities, informal, formal assessments that you give in your programs, guest speakers that come in. And so this is a way to lay out for the peer reviewers in the commission a really good map of all that you do in your program. So we will, when we kind of move in, meet again in September, we'll go into much more depth about the learning opportunities. But this is a really important chart within that self-study report. And it's often, and we'll talk a little bit later, a really good exercise to do early on as you work on your self-study report. And as I said, the bulk of your self-study report are the key assessments. You'll be submitting 5 to 6 key assessments to demonstrate alignment to standards 1 through 6 of the accreditation standards. And so as we talk about key assessments, I wanted to clarify that, by what we mean assessments are in this accreditation system. And so you'll include in your self-study report a description of the assessment, where it's used in the program, the purpose of it. We want to see the directions that you give to students in that assessment. And sometimes in programs, when assessments are given, we might, as faculty, just give verbal directions for the assessments. And so this is a really good opportunity, if that's the case in some of your courses, to write those directions down, because we want to see what students see when they receive these assessments. And then we want to see attached to the directions, student directions or instructions, we want to see the rubric that you use to evaluate that assessment. And the final piece of the assessment is the data, that's the candidate data that's coming out of that assessment. And again, we're not looking as peer reviewers or commissioners for a certain pass rate on those assessments. It really is about how that data is collected and used in the program. That's what we're most interested in. And as I said, that assessment, closing the assessment loop, that it really is about how that data is used, and then as it is analyzed, and how you make decisions about how you're changing teaching and learning in your program as it relates to the standard. And then the final piece of the self-study report is a fairly new section on program outcome measures. And so this, again, will look very familiar as regional accreditors require this. And so we are now looking at this from the early childhood program lens. And so you'll report out on the number of completers that you've had in your program, the number of completers who finished within 150% of the time frame of the program, and then we've asked programs to choose a third program outcome measure that's meaningful to them in terms of the quality of the program or the impact on the students. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Some examples I've just included in this might be if GPA is important, if it's a program that leads to licensure, if you pass rates, licensure pass rates, course grades, the retention rates in the program. So it's completely up to the programs to think about a third outcome measure that they would like to track and to report on. And then the site visit happens after the self-study report is submitted. And this is meant to be a very positive and informative experience for everyone involved. Peer reviewers are wonderful. They are faculty. Some of you are on here. And it's conducted in a spirit of collegiality. This is really the purpose of the site visit is for the peer reviewers to come in. They will have studied the self-study report. It's an opportunity for them to really better understand the context of the programs, to compare what's in the self-study report to what they see in the program and in conversations with the faculty. And then they report those findings to the commission. The site visit itself is typically 3 days, from a Sunday to a Wednesday. And with the role of the peer reviewers is to simply identify the findings there. They will not make a recommendation about whether a program should be accredited or not, but they are reporting the evidence that they found within the program as it relates to alignment to the standards. And they will submit a peer review report to the commission. The program will see the peer review report and has an opportunity to respond to that peer review report as well. So it's meant to be a very transparent process, and programs have an opportunity to weigh in on the peer review report to either indicate that they are in agreement, to clarify information, or to indicate areas where they might disagree with the peer review report. And then our commission on the accreditation of early childhood higher education programs, it's a mouthful, will make the final accreditation decision. The commission is comprised of faculty across all degree levels across the country, and they are a group of volunteers, as are the peer reviewers, who meet several times during the year to make accreditation decisions. They also set the accreditation policies and procedures for the system and lead the work to revise the accreditation standards. So the commission will review for accreditation cases a program's self-study report, the peer review report, a program's written response to that peer review report. So all of that goes into the commission's decision regarding accreditation. And typically, in terms of the decision itself, programs moving through the system for the first time have 3 possible decisions that they might receive. Accredited, which means the program has fully met the standards and there are no concerns in relationship to the standards. accredited with conditions is programs have met the standards, but there are some concerns that the Commission needs to see addressed, and programs have 2 annual reports to address those concerns. And then the third possible decision would be not accredited, and that's typically when either one or more standards has not been met by the program. Both the accredited and accredited with conditions are positive decisions. And as we've looked at our system and looked at the decisions made, majority of programs moving through for the first time do receive accreditation with conditions. And that can range, those conditions could range from their programs need to strengthen their alignment to a particular standard in their key assessments. It could be a condition around data, either around how the data is collected or how it's being analyzed within the program. So there are several reasons why a program might receive conditions.
Mary, I was really pleased to see those numbers, because there in no way is a negative connotation with accredited with conditions, and it's very much in the spirit of continuous quality improvement.
Yep, it is, and I think a lot of programs get nervous when they receive the accreditation with accredited with conditions, and it's we work a lot to help programs understand that's still a very positive decision, and most programs are able to address those conditions within the 2-year time period that they have. And as I said earlier, the accreditation, it's for a 7-year period. And so if you're accredited with conditions, for example, you are accredited for a 2-year period. When you demonstrate that you've met conditions, you then, your accreditation period expands for that full 7 years. As part of maintaining accreditation, programs submit an annual report and a fee each year. And then in year 6 of their accreditation period, they would resubmit a renewal self-study report, which is still an intensive process, but hopefully less so as programs have gone through, they will have gone through self-study before and can use a lot of the strategies that they employed that first time to really help move through that renewal self-study process. We've also, once your application for eligibility has been approved, you will get access to our online accreditation resource library. We use Basecamp as our platform for this, and so there are a lot of resources in there to help with self-study. All of the standards, all of the templates are located in that resource library. And in June, we just published a self-study and site visit handbook because there are a lot of resources for both self-study and site visit, and what we've done is compile all of those into one document in one place so that programs can use this as they begin self-study, and it can support them as they move all the way through the site visit experience as well. Soon to come, hopefully by the end of the year, will be a similar handbook for peer reviewers. So we're really trying to pull in one place and create some new content for our peer reviewers as well. And I think those were all of my slides around the process. I'd be happy to answer some questions regarding the self-study process or the accreditation process or the self-study report.
Okay, well, it looks like there are no questions. Obviously, if you think of something, please jump in and let us know. I want to thank Mary for taking her time this morning to join us and to walk through the process with us. And we're so excited to be working with her and her team to bring this opportunity to Arizona. And I want to take this time before she gets started to properly introduce Martha. I know this morning or earlier we got very informal since we all pretty much know each other, but I'm just so thankful and feel so appreciative to have Martha Munoz working with us on this project. her wealth of knowledge and experience around accreditation for higher ed is priceless. And to have her right here in the state and to be so willing to work with us and to work with you all to help us through this process, I'm excited, and I can't wait to learn from her. So I'm very thankful to have her on our team, and I'm going to turn it over to you now, Martha, to tell us what's next.
Okay, very, very good. I know it probably seems a bit overwhelming on a Friday morning to be absorbing this just when people are getting ready to get started with classes and so forth. But I'm here to reassure you that there are a number of supports for helping programs get through this process. And what I bring to this is I was on the first commission that when this accreditation system was established. So I was a commissioner in 2006 and just finished a second 3-year term on the commission. Between those times, I was a peer reviewer and am happy to be a peer reviewer once again. I'll be going out on a site visit this fall, as well as my experience as a faculty member. So I'm hoping to bring all of that to you to be a support to you in this process. Really, the first thing to do is to review the eligibility requirements, and I did send out the application for accreditation eligibility review to those of you who had expressed interest, and I see that there are new people who have come to the table, and we'll get that out to you as well. But I encourage you to look at that and start filling that out. For those of you who did receive that, do you have questions that right away jump out at you?
Martha, I did not receive the document.
Okay.
Annapurna Ganesh.
I will send that to you, Annapurna.
Thank you.
And what this document is, as Mary referred to it, it is the application that the NAEYC higher ed team reviews, specifically Pam, looks at that to ensure that you are eligible. Well, all of our programs all of our colleges and institutions are accredited by the Higher Learning Commission in Arizona. So this adds some additional context to, are you a rural institution? Is this a community college? Is this a public or private institution? And what kind of programs do you offer? So that's going to be the very first step. And if we can get this back to me by the end of the month, it doesn't have to be completed. I can take a look at that and see, are there some gaps? Is there something missing? And then that way, that'll streamline it through the process to get to NAEYC. So that's really one of the first things to do to get started. And then this next strategy says gain buy-in from institutional leadership and institutional research. And in fact, you'll probably need to contact them to complete this application for eligibility. And this is a good thing because this lets your administration, other people on your campus know that you are taking this step and that you're going to be working closely with you. Your Office of Institutional Research or Institutional Advancement can help you. You have many, many assets available to you already, resources at your colleges, people who do this full time, so they can help you. And another resource that you have possibly is an advisory committee. One of the things I love about this accreditation system is that it is very holistic. It involves stakeholders from your community members, from employers, other institutions that you articulate with. So you have that support as well. When you start going through the eligibility form, you'll start looking at what are the criteria. And one of the things I have to say, given my history with the accreditation system, is that the higher ed team and the commission have done such fabulous work in terms of streamlining forms and templates, so everything is there and it's easier for you. The new handbook for the self-study and preparing for the peer review visit are wonderful documents. Those pull everything together into one place. And as Mary noted, another resource to you will be the library in Basecamp. So once you're eligible, you get access to that. Another resource is that once you're in Basecamp, if you have a question, you can ask in a discussion thread. So there are lots of different supports. It's very interactive. You're not in this alone. And given the work that's happened in the state of Arizona through First Things First and the Professional Development Committee, I think that we are at a great place to be going through this as a cohort. So you'll have each other for support as well. Think about the standards that you feel that you are addressing very well, and also start to think about where there might be some gaps. Are there some areas where your students or candidates do not do as well? And how can you make adjustments to teaching, learning, and using data to improve that outcome for students? Mary talked about the learning opportunities chart, and to me that is a really, really good way to get started and start thinking about what kind of assessments do you use with your students. And it's important to note that when you identify these key assessments, all students will need to take those, and that will help keep your data very clean and very usable. There have been other states that have taken this cohort approach, and I believe that that is a successful model. As Dawn mentioned, we are going to be looking at how do we tag on to already existing meetings or events so that that reduces travel time and so forth. We can do a lot remotely as well. One of the things that I've done is mapped out how to accomplish this process in different periods of time. And that'll depend on the self-study process, will depend on where you are at. What's your knowledge about the accreditation system? Are you just brand new to your college as a full-time faculty? Or have you been working on this for a while? Or as in Maricopa, where there may be some shared curriculum from what I understand. So you're all going to be at different places for the most part. And so I can help when you fill out that application for eligibility to determine what do you see as your time frame for getting through self-study. And Mary has listed on here becoming a peer reviewer. I have found from my own experience that it's very, very valuable to be a peer reviewer. I learned so much in visiting other colleges. So I'm going to pause there and see if anyone has questions before Dawn gets into some of the details and nuts and bolts about this project.
This is Annapurna. I have a question for you, Martha. So you mentioned the Maricopa colleges where we have shared curriculum. Alicia and I are here from Maricopa colleges. We both share the same Associates of Applied Science degree that is offered at both the institutions, South Mountain and Mesa. How could we collaborate, do something together for this, for the accreditation self-study process, or how would that be?
I think you can. I think you're in a very good place. Where you will see the distinctions, and Mary, I believe you're still on the call, is when you look at your conceptual framework because your populations are different, you're still going to be under that umbrella or one college of Maricopa, but South Mountain and Mesa Community College has a different population of students. So you'll be able to contextualize that to your student population. But yes, in some states, every community college shares the exact same courses, but yet each community college has their own uniqueness, and that's where you'll be describing how you address your students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is Mary, just to echo what Martha says, and I think another place, because we certainly do have community colleges that she said share courses or degree programs, but the standards and the implementation of those do look different on each of those institutions. Also in terms of the field experiences and how those are organized and monitored, and the mentor teachers are trained, all of that looks very different on the different campuses. So I think programs, particularly those who work within the same institutional system, have really benefited from going through this together, and you are able to submit if you are in a place where you also share key assessments, that's fine to share those assessments as well.
But you would collect your own data on your students.
Yes.
And the Maricopa system, although it's comprised of, is it 10 colleges? Each college is separately accredited.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some of those nuances. But having a support is very, very valuable. And you'll also find that support, that network, in base camp once you become part of that community.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Martha, and appreciate that, both Mary and Martha. The fact that I heard was that we could share the same key. I mean, we could develop the same key assessments. That would be so helpful, because there are some students who, because we're sister colleges, that they take classes at one college and they take it at the other, but they graduate from one of these institutions. So in order to have that consistency for the students, it would be very helpful to have the same key assessments if we choose to do that. And completely understand that, yes, the data would be different and our applications would be different, but the fact that we'd be collaborating together and we could hold the same, could possibly use the same key assessments, that just makes it just such a wonderful collaborative effort. Thank you.
This is Alicia, and yeah, I'd like to echo what Annapurna just said. It would really, what we're trying to do is strengthen all of our programs and strengthen the interactions and connectedness that exists for students as well as for faculty. And the ability to be able to share certain key components that would say to our students and the community that what you do in one college is strengthened by what is going on in another college is just so invaluable, I think, in terms of strengthening our programs as well as supporting our students and helping our administration and leadership to understand why we're entering this whole process. So that's really key. Thank you.
I have one more question. This is Annapurna.
Yes.
All right. So Alicia and we are at, so we are South Mountain and Mesa. And then Chandler Gilbert is another one that, who's not at the table right now, but they also share the same Associates of Applied Science degree. They don't offer all the classes on the AAS. But because students are able to go to different institutions, could they Since they don't offer all the classes on the AAS, can they also be a part of this cohort and apply for accreditation?
Good question.
Yeah, this is Mary, and yes, they are welcome to. I'll go back to the eligibility requirements from just that there is that threshold that any program moving through this process needs to offer at least 18 required early childhood credit hours. So that would be a consideration. I don't know, just based on your description, whether them not offering certain courses would impact meeting that eligibility requirement or not. But certainly they could move through.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that it was 18. Yes, they meet that. So absolutely. So they can join our little team over here. Oh, so excited.
And I also, I should have clarified too when I was talking about the eligibility requirements. The 18, it's not a random number that we picked, but we have as we began the accreditation system, and we've worked for 30 plus years as the early childhood SPA for CAPE. We really found that programs that had less than 18 credit hours, early childhood credit hours, really struggled to meet the standards. And so we set the threshold there at that 18 credit hours for that reason.
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the time, and Mary was gracious enough to give us some extra time so we can spend together on this webinar, on this platform. So I think maybe some questions can be addressed by Dawn as she gets into some of the nuts and bolts. And so Dawn, would you like to take over or move on from here?
Sure, that sounds great. I just have to say how excited I am and how energized this conversation is making me feel. I'm so excited to get this project underway and start sharing. As a faculty member myself, I can't wait to learn how everybody else's program works and talk about key assessments. And so personally, on a professional level, I'm excited about my own growth through this. So a little bit about kind of the nuts and bolts and the contract with ABE and what we're going to be able to offer for support. So this is kind of, the funding is coming to us from the Arizona Department of Education through the Preschool Development Grant. ADE has that preschool development grant currently through this fiscal year, which means that starting in July of 2019, they'll be on the new fiscal year. They are reapplying for the funding, and I know the grant has already been released, so I think they're all working on that now. And this is one of the projects that was slated to be a part of that plan. Now, I haven't seen any final documents, but I know everyone's really excited about this opportunity and getting the Institutes of Higher Ed together to have these conversations. So for this first round of funding, what we're able to offer is to develop a cohort of 10 institutions or 10 pathways that we can work together to support through this process. Now, we're working on ways to where if the institutions want to go through the process but don't want to actually get the accreditation, but they still want to come to the faculty summits where we talk about these and things like that, that will offer some support, some ways for them to participate as well. But right now we're really focusing on getting the cohort of the 10 institutions. And once we get that cohort finalized, then we'll be able to really work with you to help you get your application completed and to start really reviewing the self-study. We are able to support you in paying for the application fee, the $561 for the application fee, and then also I want to make sure that I'm getting this. So the application fee, the $561, and then also for the self-study report review fee, which is the $1683. We also have funding to support faculty release time. One of the things that we heard from you all through all the meetings that we've had is we would love to do this, but we don't have the time, and we understand that also. So we wrote into the proposal to provide some faculty release time for you to have a dedicated person to really work on the project and keep the work moving forward. The way we figured that was I kind of took an average of the cost of one 3-credit course per semester. So we have $5,000 set aside for that faculty release time per institution. So hopefully you'll be able to, work with someone who's already a part of the program or someone that you know that will be able to support you through this, because there is going to be a lot of boots on the ground, gathering the data, getting all the information together, start writing up the reports, working with Martha and I to make sure that things are staying on track and continuing to move forward. This is going to be a bit of a accelerated process because we really want to get you through and to be able to support you as much as we can before our funding runs out, but also so that we can help get you to that point of accreditation as fast as possible, because we know that time is money, and time is precious for all of us right now. So we also we're going to be able to offer 2 faculty summits, and at those faculty summits, we're going to have the support from NAEYC, and Martha and I will be there as well, and others. We're reaching out to Vicki Young-Shiverton, who's on the commission currently and is faculty at Central Arizona College, who's a wonderful resource for us as well to help support us with these faculty summits. And at the summits, we're really going to break down the accreditation process into chunks and really help you focus in on those specific chunks and helping you complete those and then moving on to the next. So we're really excited to be able to work through that with you and to kind of help a very daunting, overwhelming process kind of be broken down to where it'll be a little easier to digest and to work through together. And we'll have the support of each other. We'll also be able to provide some professional development and technical assistance in between the times that we're visiting through the faculty summits and working together. Those can be webinars, they can be phone calls, it could be visits. We're going to work with you to kind of tailor what you need and what's going to work best for your programs. So really the professional development will kind of be to be determined, and we do have some dates set up that Martha's going to go over in a little bit of some opportunities that we know that you'll already be getting together, so we'll be able to meet with you there and have some time in between the big visits. So that's what AzAEYC is going to be able to provide and the support that we'll be able to offer. And then the next slide kind of talks a little bit about from your perspective. And really the biggest thing is doing the work. We know that this is going to be a big project, especially right in the middle of a semester, and getting everything off the ground for this semester and getting started in the semester and then starting straight into the accreditation project. But we're here together to do it, and as Martha said, she's got some tricks and techniques and ways of helping us break down and work through some of the projects and the more difficult areas that it'll take, but we'll be able to work together and really get that accomplished. So really doing the work.
If I can interject, I think you'll find that you're already doing much of this, and this will help perhaps organize it and help you to be more efficient. And I've learned from facilitating some of the webinars and listening in on the wonderful technical assistance webinars that NAEYC has offered on what approaches are most effective. And in my mind, I'm thinking we'll be taking kind of the flipped classroom approach in that there's work done ahead of time, information is gathered, and then when we meet, we're really going to jump in and get some tasks accomplished. So I really see us working together, supporting each other, and getting this chunked out so it's doable. It's not necessarily linear, and we'll be able to group some tasks together and find overlap.
Okay, so the next part is then the completion of the self-study report. Actually completing the report, getting it submitted, and again, we'll be there to support you through that entire process. And then attending the faculty summits, the webinars, and the TA sessions. That's really the biggest part of this proposal, is working to provide you the support that you need to help you move through this as quickly as possible, and to really help you get that look at your program and to really think about that continuous quality improvement, and having these opportunities to meet with the experts and to learn from each other are really the biggest benefit to this proposal and this project. So the faculty summits, we're planning on having 2, so we'll have one in the fall and one in the spring. The webinars will kind of be as needed. If Martha and I are talking and we realize that several people have general, are stuck at a certain place or have general questions or all the same, then we'll be able to kind of say maybe we should just open up a webinar and gather people if they're interested in talking about that. We can also work individually with you through TA sessions virtually, over the phone. We could come out for visits. So we're really open to tailoring it to your needs and making sure that we're here to support you the best way that we can. And then, oh, go ahead, Martha.
Annapurna has a really good question, and this is something that we've talked about, is how to engage others. And her question is, could we invite an adjunct faculty member to support us as a faculty member who receives the funding and reassigned time? And especially, it seems as though the majority of the programs in our state have one full-time faculty member. So, Dawn, you're more familiar with how the money is going to be dispersed. Is that something we can talk about maybe after this, how that might work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really, in my experience working with the community colleges and the universities, is it's going to be specific to each one. Because of the way that everybody is so different in how they do their funds, it's going to look, I think, very different with each one. We have some flexibility on how we're able to do it, so we just have to explore and make sure that everybody's in agreement and understands that the way that we end up finalizing with each of the institutions is okay with everybody, and we'll be able to move forward. But I think it will be an individual process with each one. Is that kind of...
Dawn, are you saying that it's a possibility that we can explore?
I think so. I mean, we all know that, going through with stipends and things like that to get the colleges, it's sometimes a difficult process. And so I think we're really open to exploring whatever is going to work best and be easiest for everyone, and okay with everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. And I think that, oh, go ahead.
The more the stakeholders can be involved. And as a former part-time faculty for, CAC, South Mountain, Mesa, I know that part-time faculty do put in a lot of work, and they are also integral to this, as well as chairs and assistant deans, associate deans, and deans. And so as many people who can be at least in the information loop, that's really critical.
Yeah, and I think that was the final point that I was going to make, is that working with us to figure out how it's going to be how it will be best to manage the funds, because like I just said, it will be different. You all know each of your systems better than anybody else, and they're different than every other college. Even in the same system, they can be different. So we'll just work together to work out the funds and to get them transferred. As soon as we get the cohort identified, then we'll start making contacts with each of you and start working out the details. Okay. Are there any questions about what we're going to be able to offer? And
I have one more question, please. This is Annapurna.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have the 10 colleges 10 institutions of higher ed identified? Do we have to wait for that to move forward, or can we move forward even if 10 haven't expressed interest? I'm just trying to gauge, is this possible to move forward if you haven't received the 10 interested parties?
We're going to be moving forward, and I recommend that everyone moving forward. We currently have 7 who have expressed interest, so we still have 3. We also have wanted to give everybody the opportunity to get back from summer and realize that this project is going to happen. And so this is the first webinar that we're having for that. I think we'll work out some dates. There's an interest form, and at the end of this, I'll send it out. Many of you on the call have already completed it, but I'll send it back out with this recorded webinar, and see if we get additional interest, and then we'll need to have a decision made by next Friday, I would hope, is my goal. That may be an issue, but we'll see how the interest goes. That's the plan right now, because we have dates starting the beginning of September.
And if I could add to that, one of the reasons that we wanted to have people complete this application for eligibility is that would help us determine how to develop this cohort, and whether you're eligible, I think, has an impact. And after consulting with Pam at NAEYC, she thought this is a good way to do it as well. So I could take an initial review and perhaps submit them to NAEYC as a batch. So I'll make sure everyone gets this application, and if you can turn it around back to me. It does require signatures, but for now I would say let's do that first screening, and then we'll move forward with getting signatures. But you probably will want to let your administrators know that you are interested in pursuing this.
Martha, if that's the case, and maybe those of you on the call help me think through this, the first date that we have is the 7th of September, and it's going to be in conjunction with the PCPP meeting, the Professional Certificate Pathway meeting. So many of you will already be at Central Arizona College for that meeting. Those of you who wouldn't be there are, first of all, Shirley said, please issue my invitation for everyone to come for the whole day. But those of you that wouldn't be there normally, we could work out a possible virtual way, or you could come down for, or come for the afternoon on the 7th, and you could just go ahead and plan on coming, and then we could give you longer to complete the application.
Dawn, this is Pam, and is there a list of meeting times and dates? I already know we have a huge donor visit on the 7th, so I know I couldn't attend, but is there a mapped out timeline for the meetings that you could share with us?
Yeah, so on the screen right now are the meetings that we have scheduled.
Okay.
And I'll send this out we're going to send out save the dates for all of these. But on September 7th, as part of the PCPP meeting, it's going to be a how to get started session. So a little deeper into what are some of the data points that you need to be gathering and kind of how to get started gathering everything. And then we're going to have a faculty summit, the first one that will be the real work session on Friday the 28th at Mesa. And we're going to really take that opportunity, since the month of September, we're going to have you gather a lot of the information and things to get you started, and then bring that information to the faculty summit. And just like Martha was saying, really take that time to dig in and get started doing the work. And so that would be on Friday, September 28th, and that is going to be in conjunction with AzAEYC's annual meeting that will be happening on Saturday, September 29th at Rio. So we're hoping that you know, those of you that are come will be able to attend both events. We would love to have you attend the annual meeting as well. And we have time carved out for you during the annual meeting to be able to get together again in case after the faculty summit you went home and couldn't sleep that night and you stayed up all night coming up with 15 questions. You'll have some time on Saturday to work with Martha again to kind of answer any of those questions that could have come up. And then we're going to be attending the Early Childhood Articulation Task Force meeting on October the 12th. And we'll be there as just as audience, but since we'll be there, we'll be able to have some TA sessions. So before that meeting, we can kind of work with you to see how you're doing. If you want to meet with us during that time or before or after the meeting, then we can work out some meeting times with whoever may be attending that meeting. So as you can see, we tried to make it places and times where you would already be and as convenient as possible for all of us. But that's kind of the plan for the fall. And I know, Martha, you can go much deeper into, I just realized that you were really going to talk about these, but you could go deeper into what we're going to be talking about at each of those events.
Okay, and Dawn, I know that you need to go and others may need to leave as well. And Pam, I don't know why I'm
Yes.
But in response to your question, the PCPP meeting, I believe they typically meet in the morning, and it's targeted for the community colleges. But our thinking, Dawn and I were thinking that if any university representatives wanted to participate in either the full day or just the afternoon, where we'll be getting into some technical assistance, they are welcome to. I don't know if somebody else from NAU can attend, and you and I can connect later about how I can be a support to you.
That's what I was kind of thinking. And I think we will have another representative. And actually, this is just through October. Will there be another list of meetings that can come out? I like to get them on my calendar earlier because,
I know.
it's packed. So thank you. And we can talk offline, Martha. So thanks so much.
Yeah, and I think once we get our cohort, I agree, should establish the dates out and just have it set. And then at I'll tell you a little bit of what I know about the AzAEYC annual meeting. That is going to be a Saturday morning event, and there will be professional development opportunities within that. So I can present a session that I presented at the PLI on using a project management approach, or we can look at also another option would be to work on your conceptual framework. So there's some options there where we could, as a group, work together on that. And then the ATF meeting at Tohono O'odham, I may be participating in that remotely, but again, AzAEYC has wonderful methods of using technology to bring people together, either through Google Hangouts, or I've been using Zoom. So there's some things we can do there. I'm just curious if anyone is planning to attend the NAEYC conference in DC in November.
It's Pam. I might.
Okay, well, good.
This is Alicia. I will not be attending the meeting in DC.
I will be attending.
I'm not attending.
Okay, so we have some people who are attending, and that would be a really good place to meet as well. And of course, I understand there are budgetary considerations. The Professional Learning Institute in 2019, that's hard to believe, but that is going to be in Long Beach, California. That's a little closer. So that could possibly be another opportunity. And again, once we get our cohort established, then we will set some dates out. I like to have my dates planned out as well. So I think that helps everybody with their schedules. Any other questions?
I see a question in the chat room about the PCP meeting, and Melissa, they're asking, was the meeting date changed from September 14th to the 7th?
There was confusion about the date. I think half of the people had it as the 7th and half of the people had it as the 14th. So we are moving forward with the 7th. Does that still work for you?
It works for me. I just saw there was some questions about it, so I just wanted to clarify the date.
I see that Anna, Perna, and Alicia have questions. So there was some confusion because some people had put it for the 7th and some for the 14th. So we chose the earlier date, mostly because of this project as well, to kind of give us some more time.
So unfortunately, that does not work for me because I went off of Shirley's email that came to all of us, letting us know that 14th was the date, and that I had on my calendar. So unfortunately, 7th does not work for me.
Okay, did she send a follow-up email on Aparna for the 7th?
This was sent on April 17th when she sent the email saying that it was September 14th, but no follow-up since then.
Okay.
And this is Alicia. I don't have a follow-up either that changed the date, but I can shift some things around. Let's see.
All right, Dawn and Martha, are you flexible in terms of the 7th or the 14th?
I'm available the 14th as well.
Yep, I'm flexible.
Okay, I'll ask Shirley to send out a quick little poll, and let's see where we're going to get the most turnout, the 7th or the 14th. So we apologize for that confusion. I'm not sure how that happened. So those things just happen. So
Right. So just for your knowledge, I have things in the morning, so I won't be able to attend the PCPP. But if this thing is happening in the afternoon, I can attend this.
okay, so all right, I'll follow up with Shirley.
Okay.
Okay. So are there any more questions about kind of the project, the process? I know it's been a lot to take in on a Friday morning, but we're really excited to get started and to start having the conversations that you've already started on this webinar. So I think in the next slide, I just wanted to kind of, as far as for this specific project, Martha is going to be the accreditation facilitator. And I'm going to forget the name of your company, Martha.
No problem.
Can you share it with us?
Yes. I've been working as an independent consultant for the last year. It's in MDC Planning Group. And I sent out my email address to everyone. So you should have that. That was actually on one of the chat messages, but you will have it after this. I did not get that in there. So I'll be providing the technical assistance to you, or coordinating with NAEYC's wonderful team to vet any questions that a number of you have.
Okay, and I'm going to be considered the project coordinator. So I'll be working more around the logistics, helping us all work through how we're going to transfer the funds, helping to set up the events, all of those kind of logistics, and really also being there to provide support. Working alongside Martha, getting to learn from her and all of you through this process, and hopefully be able to share a little bit of knowledge with you as well, or at least get you pointed in the right direction whenever I can support the technical assistance side. That's my phone number and my email address. Please feel free, reach out anytime, phone, text, emails, whatever works best for you. And I'm just excited to get started.
Thank you all so much. I know there is a lot on your plate, and this is the accreditation process is just so it's so transparent, and it just adds to the professionalism of our field and the recognition to your programs. So thank you so much, and both Dawn and I will be in touch, and please feel free to contact me if you have questions. And Mary, thank you so much.
Yes, Mary, thank you.
Well, thank you both. I'm really excited to work on this with you all, and Dawn and Martha are excellent resources, and please feel free to call on NAEYC as well. You'll get to know and love Pam Ehrenberg very, very well during this process, and she's an incredible support for the programs moving through this as well. So we're just really excited to support you in whatever way you need as you move through this.
And Mary and I will be mapping out the faculty summit or institute. So more information will be coming on that.
Martha, Dawn, and Mary, on behalf of all of us, thank you ever so much. This is something we have wanted to do in Arizona, or many of us as institutions of higher ed have wanted to pursue with our accreditation process, but just haven't been able to do because of lack of resources or lack of the ability to do because we are single full-time faculty programs. This is just awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, and I'm pleased that you're going to be hosting our event at the end of September, and Mary will be joining us. She'll be flying in from DC.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. This is Melissa. I just want to say we're really excited about this opportunity to for the Arizona AEYC affiliate to partner with all of your institutions to bring this to Arizona. So I think it's a great opportunity for everyone, and we're excited to get it going. So thanks for being willing to join us.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Right.
Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.